Hello, everyone. We wait a little bit. We wait 2 minutes to let people join the webinar. And we will start at 2:02 p.m. Thank you for the one who are already there. People are joining us. That's great. We are many today, so we wait a little bit. And we will start in 1 minute from now. If your screen doesn't show up properly, or if you have trouble hearing us, please write a message into the conversation of Teams, and the coordinator will help us to find a solution for you. Normally should work perfectly. Okay, let's start then. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Ackomas webinar, focus on legacy devices in EUDAMED, a topic that raises many questions from our customers. We're excited to co-host this session with our partner, Efor, well known for their regulatory expertise. Efor has worked alongside Ackomas, GS1 France, and several manufacturers to help write the EUDAMED practical guide. This free guide has been very well received by manufacturers and is available upon request on our website, Ackomas website. It has been also shared with the European Commission, who gave us positive feedback about it. So do not hesitate to ask for it. For those who doesn't know me, my name is Jean-Philippe Joubert. I'm the head of customer success at Ackomas. Before joining the team, I spent over 10 years in the medical device industry, leading major projects around global product master data, including submission to both GoodID and EUDAMED. Today, I bring this dual expertise, both operational and regulatory, to support our clients. Ackomas is an IT company specialized in medical devices and regulatory compliance. Our top priority are quality, reliability, and ease of use. And our founders are recognized experts in this field. We are proud partner of MedTech Europe, GS1 Healthcare, and ISPE, and we actively contribute to regulatory discussion. We are also working very closely with EUDAMED support team. Our platform, Ackomas platform, live since 2021, is built to handle regulatory complexity while staying user-friendly and intuitive. It supports submission to EUDAMED, GoodID, and some other regulatory databases, ready-to-use connectors, and a flexible, non-proprietary architecture. This webinar is part of a series of 8 sessions organized by Ackomas. 3 sessions have already been broadcast in both French and in English to meet the needs of our diverse audience. You can find them on our website, again, Ackomas website. And the schedule has been adjusted because of forums and other webinars. As a result, some sessions have been moved to the third quarters, as you can see on the screen today. Each session lasts between 20 to 30 minutes with one clear goal, getting straight to the point. And today's webinar is not a general introduction to EUDAMED. However, if anything seems unclear, feel free to drop your question in the chat. We answer them at the end of the session or afterward if needed. With just 7 months to go before the first EUDAMED deadline, this webinar is designed to clarify and help you anticipate the specific action required for legacy devices. We'll start by clearly defining what the term legacy devices mean. It's a concept that is often misunderstood or interpreted differently depending on the stakeholder. Next, we look at which devices need to be registered in EUDAMED and under what condition. Then we walk through the concrete step you need to take to ensure compliance, timeline, technical requirements, and best practices. We also take a moment to briefly show you how the Ackomas solution can support you before wrapping up with answers to some frequently asked questions. We have only 4. And our goal again is to give you a clear, practical, and actionable overview as you can move forward with confidence. Now, let's dive into today's topic. I'm pleased to hand things over to Florence Trépant, Head of Regulatory Affairs within the Technical Division of Efor. She'll introduce herself, give you a quick overview of Efor, and most importantly, share her expertise on legacy device in EUDAMED. It's always a real pleasure to work with Florence. Professionalism, clarity, and attention to detail are truly valuable, believe me. Florence, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jean-Philippe. So let's go to present Efor. Efor is mainly present in pharmaceutical and medical devices sectors, and we can support companies during the development and life cycle of the product in different fields like quality, regulatory affairs. We can offer tailored solutions like outlines, operational support, project management. And then we are now 3,000 employees, and we are present in 12 countries. So let's go to grab the concept of legacy device. First of all, we can identify the devices currently on the market in 3 categories. We have the old devices, the legacy devices, and the registrant devices. So first, let's speak about the old devices. What is an old device? It's a medical device or an IVD that is certified according to the directive. And the devices were placed on the UE market or put into service by the manufacturer or importer before the implementation date of the MDR or the IVDR. So there is no transition period for this kind of device. Regarding the legacy device, it's also a medical device or an IVD. CE certified according to the directive, but this kind of device can benefit from the transition period that we discussed just after. And they are placed on the European market after the implementation date for MDR or IVDR. And the regulation devices are the devices that are certified according to the regulation MDR and IVDR. Regarding the condition to benefit from the transition period, they are remaining just here. So the devices are still compliant with the directives. There is no significant change in the design or in the intended purpose. We need a notified body for the CE certification. That means that there is no transition period for Class 1 or Class A for IVD devices. So no legacy devices that are Class 1 or Class A except if we need a notified body because, for example, there is a change in the class when we are MDR certified. The quality management system is now MDR compliant or IVDR compliant. We need to sign a contract with a notified body in due time. So it's already the case for MDR and for MD for the medical devices, and for IVD that depends on the classification of the IVD. And the device needs to meets MDR or IVDR requirements relating to post-market surveillance, vigilance, registration of economic operators, and that includes EUDAMED registration. And we can see in the MDCG guidance 2021-25, this guidance confirms that the registration in EUDAMED is applicable to legacy devices, depending on the specific conditions that we will discuss together. So let's speak now about the identification of the legacy devices that need to be registered in EUDAMED database. As you know, EUDAMED is a European database for medical devices, and the goal is to provide better access to information and greater transparency. So you can see here a reminder of the 6 modules. You can see in TIS 1, the second one, TIS 1 is dedicated to devices and to system and procedure pact and UDI. And this module will be the main workload for manufacturers, especially if the manufacturer has many device references. We have also the module for certificate and notified bodies, for vigilance and post-market surveillance, market surveillance, and for clinical investigation and performance studies. We can see here that the registration of legacy devices in EUDAMED database is specifically planned by clicking on this link. So, as soon as the module device and UDI is mandatory, the marketed legacy devices will have to be registered in this module, except if a corresponding regulation device is already registered at this date. But what is a corresponding regulation device? That means that the device, the legacy and regulation device, have the same identifications of such as UDIGI, catalog and the reference number or trade name, the same risk class, and same characteristics such as implantable, active, etc. Devices where changes have been made for a regulation device which would lead to the assignment of a new UDIGI would not be considered as the same devices. So what are the deadline, expected deadline? In fact, there will be a 6-month period between the OJ publication and the date for mandatory use of the different modules. So if we have a publication date in July this year for module 1, 2, 3, and 5, so including the module for devices, we can expect a date for mandatory use in January. And for devices that are already on the market in January, that include registration devices and legacy devices, there is a transition period for registration of the devices, and this transition period is about 12 months. So we have until July 2026 to register them. Regarding the module for vigilance, we expect a publication in maybe January 2026 and an expected mandatory use of this module maybe in July 2026. And for the moment, the module 6 is still in development. So regarding the legacy and registration devices that are no longer placed on the market when EUDAMED is become mandatory, so normally in July next year, there is no need to register them in EUDAMED, except if we have a vigilance action that need to be notified to the authorities, or if we need to submit a PSUR. If I have a vigilance action for a legacy device that needs to be reported in EUDAMED, and if I have the corresponding MDR device that exists and already registered in EUDAMED, I need to ask, does that concern only the legacy device? If yes, the legacy device must exceptionally be registered in the module for product and reference in the vigilance action. If no, in that case, I can refer to the corresponding regulation device. And for the old devices, this kind of devices cannot be registered in EUDAMED. So in case of vigilance action, the manufacturer has to provide a limited device dataset in the vigilance module. It's for you, Jean-Philippe.
Okay, thank you very much, Florence. So let's go on with how to be prepared and action for legacy devices after reviewing, what legacy device has to be collected. So one of the first steps toward EUDAMED compliance is to clearly define the scope and identify the devices that need to be registered in the regulatory database. And these include the legacy devices we just discussed. So I tried to draw a work chart, about the project, and you can see that after understanding the scope of the project, then you will have to assess the volume of UDI, including the legacy device, and this will help you to know what is your workload for this project. Let's take a moment to walk through this diagram. It might look a bit dense at the first glance, and we will break it down step by step. The top section is in green here, represent the regulatory target under MDR, IVDR in EUDAMED. Here we see the certificate. I don't see if you see my mouse here, but so you can see the certificate. You can see if it is not a class 1 or class A, you can see the basic UDI/IDI and of course the UDI/IDI. All are governed by well-defined rules, and those rules are: one basic UDI/IDI is linked to one certificate. We can talk about the basic UDI/IDI as a family for regulatory. So one family is linked to one certificate, as you know probably better than me. A basic UDI/IDI can cover multiple UDI/IDI. So it means that below a family, you may have multiple products, but each UDI/IDI can only be linked to a single basic UDI/IDI, which makes sense. You have also a technical constraint. A UDI/IDI cannot be registered in EUDAMED unless it's linked to a basic UDI/IDI, and vice versa. A basic UDI/IDI cannot exist without at least one UDI/IDI. Okay, this is the future for the regulatory. Now, let's have a look at the bottom section in yellow. This refers to the legacy devices. Those covered by or under the MDD IVDD directive. Even though the concept of a basic UDI/IDI doesn't exist under the directive, it becomes mandatory in EUDAMED. So if you already use a UDI/IDI under the directive, you can keep it. But be aware, you need to create a unique basic UDI/IDI for each UDI/IDI. So it's different here from the MDR IVDR. So remember that you have a one-to-one relationship between the basic UDI/IDI and the UDI/IDI. To simplify it, you can follow the rule that have been issued by the European Commission, which is to say, you use a B prefix followed by the UDIDI to generate your basic UDIDI. That way, you will have a one-to-one relationship. And the basic UDIDI cannot be reused when transitioning to MDR, IVDR. So it's what I mentioned here with the arrow here between the MDD and the MDR. Of course, if you don't have a UDIDI today for your legacy devices, EUDAMED can automatically generate a EUDAMED DI, which is the equivalent of a basic UDIDI, or it can generate, also a EUDAMED ID this time, which is the equivalent of a UDIDI. Okay, so as a key takeaway, remember that for legacy devices, the rule is simple. One basic UDIDI equal one UDIDI. And this is specific EUDAMED requirement that must be carefully planned for. Let's take a moment to walk you through the concrete benefits of the Ackomas solution now. And at this point in the webinar, we are shifting gears. After reviewing the regulatory requirements around legacy devices, I'd like to invite you to look at their management and more broadly devices registration in EUDAMED, not as a burden, but as a strategic opportunity. We have a clear deadline around July 1st, 2026. While the exact date may shift slightly, it's now widely accepted that there will be no significant delay, and the authority have made it clear the timeline will be enforced. So, do we turn this deadline into a competitive advantage? It starts with how to do that. It starts with anticipation, in fact. And the closer we get to the deadline, the more difficult it's become to access system, resources, and support. I mentioned EUDAMED support, for instance. So experience show that those who start early stay in control. It also means that preparing now for the transition of legacy devices to MDR based on reliable structure and traceable data is important. And let's be very clear, regulatory compliance isn't a pendulum swing. It's built on consistency, discipline, and transparency. Anticipating and taking control not only ensure you meet deadlines, it also sends a strong signal to competent authorities, notified bodies, and the market, and a signal of trust, professionalism, and long-term reliability. So, and this is exactly where Ackomas comes in, a solution designed to turn regulatory pressure into performance leverage. Ackomas is not a generic solution. It's a specialized platform tested daily with EUDAMED since 2021 and designed to meet the specific demands on medical device industry. It handles all types of devices, legacy, MDR, and IVDR, within a secure, scalable, and fully compliant environment. Its advanced interface is aligned with the EU standards, ensuring seamless interoperability with EUDAMED. Data transfer is fully automated. Reporting is built in, so it means that you can report your data where you are to the general management, and traceability is complete. Ackomas is also praised for its user-friendly design. It supports your team day to day, and yet, from an IT standpoint, it's almost invisible. It works in the background without adding complexity. So this is not a low-cost solution. It's a reliable, long-term, and immediately operational platform built for medical devices and IVD manufacturers who don't compromise on data quality, integrity, and on their reputation. Ackomas also delivers a measurable reduction in operational workload. We pre-configured workflow, registration becomes automated, fast, reliable, traceable, and free from technical complexity. So it means that your qualified teams are no longer tied up with manual, repetitive tasks prone to input errors and file handling issues. When I say file, is XML file or whatever. Instead, they can focus on high-value activities, managing exception rather than routine. The platform also ensures a smooth preparation for future MDR transition with data continuity fully maintained. And most importantly, it brings peace of mind. Everything is centralized, traceable, and accessible at any time. So you gain time, reliability, and visibility without compromise on regulatory rigor. Before we wrap up, we wanted to revisit a few frequently asked questions from manufacturers during the previous webinars. These questions come up often and deserve clear answers. So I asked 4 questions, and Florence will provide precise answers based on expertise. And of course, if any other questions come to mind, feel free to drop them in team chat. We'll answer them at the end of the session or in days that follow. So let's start with the first question, Florence. So I try to read because it's very small here. Does the date of July the 1st, 2026 for registration in EUDAMED apply to a legacy device currently under MDD and transitioning to MDR only in 2027, 2028?
Of course, yes, because we have no corresponding registration device at this time when EUDAMED become mandatory. So that means that we have no exemption. We need to register the legacy device.
Thank you. Second question. If the MDR transition ends for the legacy devices in Europe, but the MDD version is maintained for the rest of the world, do we still need to register the legacy device in EUDAMED?
If the legacy device is not on the market anymore, you don't need to register in EUDAMED. And if you have the MDR, the registration device already registered in EUDAMED, you don't need to register the legacy device.
Okay.
If a legacy device has been registered in EUDAMED but has been discontinued because it was not transitioned to MDR, should we delete the registration from EUDAMED or simply indicate the end of marketing?
So, of course, you can delete the data into EUDAMED. It's a manual transaction to do that. But I do not recommend that for 2 reasons. First, we don't know the consequence of doing that. And the second stuff is we are losing traceability of what is done. So what we recommend in that case is just to be sure that we have, how do you call that? We can put an end of marketing date of concerned device, you know. So you just say, it's the end of commercialization of marketing of a product, and that's it.
And if I have already a legacy device registered, do I need to register it again after transitioning it to MDR?
So yes. The device under MDR must be registered in order to update first the new basic UDIDI I mentioned previously, and you will have also to add some additional attributes related to MDR. So definitely yes, Florence.
And we have some questions in the chat, all for you.
My goodness. So maybe we can ask, is it in the chat or in the conversation? I cannot see in the conversation. Okay, let's start with the first one. If I can see them, can the software transfer information from a datasheet from transition via machine to machine? Yes, you have several ways of input your data into Ackomas platform. The first one is to input your data manually, but it's not very is not the best way to do it. You can import your an Excel sheet into the software, into Ackomas platform, and then the platform is telling you what is okay, what is not okay, and you work on exception that way. And of course, the last way to do that is to develop interface between your systems and the platform. And we have API specification available to do that. Of course, depending on the deadline, it means July 26, and when we start doing that, we can do that immediately, or to do that after the mandatory registration. I hope I answer your question, Stéphanie. The second, our ERP system has not all information for the EUDAMED database included. Hence, different sources will have to be used. Therefore, a spreadsheet will be visible, which can transfer the information. Yes. So yes. So if your information system does not have, if your ERP has not all the information, and you need different information in order to capture all the mandatory information needed for EUDAMED, what we will do, we will provide you a template. Ackomas will provide you a template in order to collect all those data. And then, as I mentioned previously, when you upload the data into the system, you will know immediately what is good, what is not good, what has to be changed or not, but by exception again. And if it is okay, it will be published automatically. Or you can use also a workflow, but it can, if everything is okay, then it can be published automatically to EUDAMED. And again, it could be creation, modification, it could be legacy, MDR, whatever. This is not your problem. It's our problem. The complexity is Ackomas issue. Currently in EUDAMED, each UDI needs to be registered individually, which is quite time-consuming. Yes, it is, and requires significant manual effort. Is there a way to upload UDI in bulk similar to functionality? It's exactly what I mentioned to you previously. So you cannot do really that through EUDAMED directly. That's why I was mentioning the Ackomas solution. If you try to do that into EUDAMED directly with XML sheet, XML file, sorry, it means what? It means that you will have to create files, XML files, depending on what you want to do. So it means to create basic UDIDI plus UDIDI, or to create UDIDI with a basic UDIDI which has been created before. It means also that you have to think whether you are already registered your product into EUDAMED or not. So depending on what you want to do, the XML model will be different. So it is a nightmare. That's why I was mentioning that Ackomas is taking care of the complexity for you, and the product for your users. I mean, Ackomas platform for users is very friendly, very, very useful. So next, I don't know if I made, our product is legacy device, and we must to be compliant to MDR UDI as 26 May 25. Please advise if we add the data matrix barcode, how and what information must be present to be compliant. Maybe Florence, for you that one? If you can answer.
Yes, the UDI is not mandatory for legacy devices, so you can, but it's not mandatory to put the data matrix or barcode on the product. And you can have EUDAMED DI and EUDAMED ID instead of UDI to register in the EUDAMED database. I hope that answer to the question.
And we have another question in the QAR, I think, currently in EUDAMED. each UDI needs to be registered individually, which I already answered that question, sorry. So again, if you have additional questions, do not hesitate to contact us. If I may now, I may say that as a key takeaway, first, act now for EUDAMED. Do not wait for the last minute and January or July 2026. It will be too late. Include legacy devices in data collection when no corresponding registration device exists, as Florence mentioned during this webinar. And you can use also Ackomas. It's an optimal solution for EUDAMED publishing, and much more than that, as I mentioned before. So do not hesitate. And of course, Efor is there in order to answer your question, to help you diving into the complexity of the regulation itself. So that's it as a takeaway. So thank you for joining us today. The Ackomas team is also available if you like a closer look at our M2M solution, a demo. I'm thinking of Christina for Dash, Valerio for Italy, Spain, and Portugal, and Nicola for other countries. You can get your contact, I guess, the link, your contact details, sorry, by scanning the QR code that are displayed on the screen here. And also the Efor team is also available to advise you. Florence, I guess, mention her email on the screen also. So thank you, Florence, for your time and your expertise on this subject. Thank you, everyone, for attending this webinar, and I hope we answer your question. Thank you very much. Have a very good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.